What would you think if someone told you that God isn't a distant being in a higher realm, but the infinite essence woven into everything around us? This is precisely what Spinoza proposed, a notion so bold and revolutionary that it shook the very foundations of religion and philosophy. Imagine living in a time when questioning the divine meant risking your reputation, or worse, your life. Yet, Spinoza didn't just question, he redefined God, turning conventional beliefs on their head. Born into a world governed by rigid doctrines, Spinoza dared to see divinity not as a figure watching from above, but as the very fabric of existence itself. His radical vision wasn't just an intellectual exercise, it was a direct challenge to the authority of the church and state. Why were his ideas so dangerous, and why do they still resonate centuries later? Let's dive into the mind of the man who dared to defy the heavens. Spinoza's philosophy redefined the concept of God, not as a transcendent entity ruling from above, but as an infinite substance present in all things. In his view, God wasn't separate from nature or existence, but was the totality of everything, the universe itself. This radical perspective wasn't just abstract theory, it reframed spirituality as something inherently tied to the natural world. To Spinoza, every leaf, every star, every emotion was an expression of the divine, making the sacred accessible to everyone, everywhere. This stood in stark contrast to the traditional religious view of a God who commands from a heavenly throne. For centuries, organized religion had portrayed God as a separate being, distant and often punitive. Spinoza's idea dismantled this separation, suggesting instead that understanding nature was a way to understand God. This wasn't just a philosophical shift, it was a call to rethink humanity's relationship with the divine and, by extension, with each other. If divinity is in everything, how can anything or anyone be inherently unworthy? Such ideas were profoundly threatening to the institutions of his time. By equating God with nature, Spinoza eliminated the need for intermediaries like clergy or rituals to connect with the divine. This democratization of spirituality undermined the authority of religious leaders and challenged the power structures built on fear and control. Spinoza's philosophy wasn't just radical, it was revolutionary, sparking debates that would echo through the Enlightenment and beyond. But why were these ideas so intolerable to the powers of the 17th century? To truly grasp Spinoza's audacity, we must step into the turbulent world of 17th century Europe, a time when religion and politics were inseparably intertwined. The church wielded immense power, not only as a spiritual authority but as an enforcer of societal norms. Questioning its doctrines wasn't merely controversial, it was often seen as heresy, a crime punishable by excommunication or even death. In this rigid landscape, Spinoza's ideas were like a thunderstorm in a clear sky, unpredictable and deeply unsettling to those in power. Spinoza himself faced immediate repercussions for his beliefs. Born into a Jewish community in Amsterdam, he was excommunicated at just 23 years old for what the authorities called horrible heresies. This wasn't a simple matter of losing a place in the synagogue. It meant complete isolation, cutting him off from family, friends, and any sense of community. Yet, even as the Christian authorities echoed this condemnation, labeling his ideas blasphemous, Spinoza didn't back down. Instead, he chose a life of solitude and intellectual freedom, refusing to compromise his vision. His defiance was a direct threat to the carefully constructed power structures of both church and state. By presenting a God that didn't fit neatly into their doctrines, Spinoza exposed the fragility of their control. If people began to see divinity in themselves and the world around them, why would they need priests or kings to mediate that relationship? It's no wonder his writings were banned and burned, but Spinoza's isolation didn't silence him. Instead, it gave him the space to craft a philosophy that continues to challenge the status quo even today. At the heart of Spinoza's philosophy lies a profound vision of freedom. Freedom not as the absence of rules, but as the understanding of life's essence. He believed that recognizing the divine within everything could liberate individuals from fear and manipulation. In a world where religion often used fear to maintain control, Spinoza's ideas were revolutionary. He suggested that understanding the true nature of reality and our place within it could free us from the chains of ignorance and superstition. Spinoza's concept of freedom wasn't just personal, but deeply intellectual. He argued that to truly be free, one must seek knowledge and strive for clarity. For Spinoza, the more we understand the interconnectedness of existence, the less we are enslaved by external forces, be it fear of divine punishment or societal pressures. This philosophy laid the groundwork for the Enlightenment, influencing thinkers like Kant and Rousseau. Even today, his vision resonates with modern movements advocating mindfulness and self-awareness, which encourage us to question and transcend limiting beliefs. What's striking is how his ideas translate into everyday life. Imagine, for instance, shifting from a mindset of fear, whether fear of failure or judgment, to one of understanding. Instead of dreading the unknown, Spinoza would invite you to explore it. This doesn't mean recklessness, it means replacing fear with curiosity. By embracing this freedom, Spinoza believed, we could not only transform ourselves but also inspire a world where control gives way to harmony. But what made this vision so threatening that it demanded outright censorship? The censorship of Spinoza's ideas wasn't merely about disagreement, it was about power. Organized religion and state authorities relied heavily on controlling the narrative of what was sacred, moral, and acceptable. Spinoza's philosophy undermined this control by suggesting that divinity was inherent in nature and humanity, not mediated through rituals or clergy. If people could find God within themselves and the world around them, what role remained for the institutions that thrived on their dependence? This question struck fear into the hearts of those who sought to maintain order through dogma. The suppression of Spinoza's works wasn't subtle. His most controversial book, Ethics, wasn't published until after his death, and even then, it was immediately banned. Copies were seized, burned, and labeled as dangerous by religious authorities. But the danger wasn't in the text itself. It was in its ability to inspire independent thought. Spinoza encouraged readers to question, to seek knowledge, and to break free from imposed ideologies. For institutions that thrived on conformity, this was nothing short of rebellion. It wasn't just the ideas, they feared the spark of enlightenment they could ignite. Despite their efforts, Spinoza's philosophy endured, passed quietly from thinker to thinker, influencing generations. The very act of trying to erase his voice gave it more weight, turning him into a symbol of intellectual resistance. His writings continue to challenge the boundaries of faith, science, and freedom. The question isn't just why they tried to silence him, but why his ideas refused to fade. What is it about the truth he uncovered that remains so powerful, even centuries later? This enduring legacy offers a glimpse into how his influence reshaped modern thought. Spinoza's philosophy, though heavily censored during his time, became a cornerstone for the Enlightenment and continues to inspire modern thought. Thinkers like Voltaire and Goethe found in his works a path toward intellectual freedom and secular ethics. His idea of God as an infinite substance laid the groundwork for pantheism, a belief system that sees the divine in all of existence. Today, his vision resonates in spiritual movements that reject dogma and embrace interconnectedness, showing us that his ideas were not just ahead of his time, they were timeless. What makes Spinoza's legacy so enduring is its relevance to contemporary challenges. In a world often divided by rigid beliefs, his call for unity through understanding feels more urgent than ever. His writings remind us to look beyond the superficial and seek the underlying essence that binds us. For example, his emphasis on rationality and empathy offers a blueprint for resolving conflicts, whether personal or global. Spinoza didn't just theorize about freedom and understanding, he lived it, showing that courage and intellect can transcend even the harshest opposition. Spinoza's vision of the divine as the unity of all existence wasn't just a philosophical statement, it was a challenge to see the world, and ourselves, through a completely different lens. By daring to equate God with nature, he reminded us that the sacred is not confined to temples or texts, but is present in every moment, every being, and every breath. His courage to question authority and pursue understanding, even at great personal cost, offers a powerful example of the transformative power of truth. As we reflect on Spinoza's legacy, his words echo through the centuries. The highest activity a human being can attain is learning for understanding, because to understand is to be free. What does it mean to truly understand? Not just the world, but our place within it. Perhaps the greatest tribute we can pay to Spinoza is to embrace that question with the same boldness he did, allowing it to shape our pursuit of knowledge, freedom, and unity.